Grow a pair, my friends. Refuse to do it. You're so afraid that they may call you up in front of some committee because you don't follow the standard of care dictated by the friggin' drug companies? Shame on you, entire medical community. Well, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Mitch. Drink it if you got it. Well, I've been doing these things for almost 2 weeks now. It's turning into, I think, a really great vehicle for me to be able to talk about the things that I think about, relay a lot of information that I find out, almost in some respects like a morning newscast, and recommend things for you for further information, like videos that I see, because I watch a ton of this stuff, and some of this stuff is fabulous. A lot of these recommendations are recommended to me by you. I get a steady stream of emails every day. Watch this, watch that, watch the other thing. And I don't ignore these. I take a look at them. I may not recommend them. I recommend very few. But I take them seriously, and I seriously appreciate the thought behind all of those emails where you think this is something that you might want me to talk about because it's important to you. And I appreciate that. In watching all these different videos, many of them that I've seen before, it brings back to mind so many of the issues that we faced. And one of the things that never ceases to puzzle me or frustrate me, let me use that term, frustrate me. And I'll use as an example Tucker Carlson's 2 videos, one with Casey Means called Ozempic, and then about Ozempic, which really did a deep dive into the real reason why our country is going down the tubes, both financially and on the health front. And then another interview from a couple of months ago with him and with Casey and Calley, his sister, who's a physician, who are the 2 people that have really been responsible for Robert Kennedy focusing on what he focuses on, so much of it coming from their research. Then, of course, Robert F. Kennedy has talked about this to the nation, to Donald Trump. And we down here at the bottom end of the influence spectrum, the little 77-year-old fart piss ant YouTuber who gets 1,000 or 2, maybe 3 people to watch one of his videos, changing nothing except on an individual basis and maybe helping a small number of people save their lives, but certainly not affecting any decisions made at national level, not changing anything about the way that the food and drug companies, especially the drug companies, control everything control the messaging. And it's frustrating to me. It's frustrating to me, and yet not unexpected, that Tucker Carlson, who, of course, no longer has a perch at a major news network, but has pretty much created his own outlet. And I look at the view counts on these videos, and these two videos with Casey and Calley memes are in the range of 2.5 million views each on YouTube. And I'm sure that their messages on other social media. So they are reaching some people, but who are they reaching? And what effect is it having on the people that they're reaching? And why, with so many people following those truth tellers out there, why is nothing changing? Why has nothing changed? Why do the Cheerios still say heart healthy? Why are people still lining up for Ozempic? Why won't they stop eating all of this crap? They only eat more and more of it. Why is every other ad I see on TV anymore on the morning news a drug company ad? Why has the entirety of the medical community, smart so-called doctors, smart people, why haven't they had an epiphany that they're lackeys for the drug companies, that they have become not healers anymore, but perpetuators of sickness and suffering, blaming the organizations above them for, quote, forcing them to practice medicine that way? Grow a pair, my friends. Refuse to do it. You're so afraid that they may call you up in front of some committee because you don't follow the standard of care dictated by the friggin' drug companies? Shame on you, entire medical community, pushing 100% sugar meals on patients who trust their lives to you, who come to your hospitals. Shame on you all. Unfortunately, there are times when we absolutely need not so much a doctor, but a mechanic to fix something that broke in our body, a bone. I've had to go to doctors for injuries. But stay away from my metabolism, please. You're just screwing everything up. You are not only ruining this nation, you are dooming the human race to extinction if we keep going down this path. And what the fat cats at the top of this, the boards of directors of the pharmaceutical and food companies, all of those people, those corrupt people in positions of power in government and industry, especially the medical people, the doctors that are taking money from these people hand over fist so they can drive their new Porsches and Maseratis and vacation lavishly and have huge mansions that they get on the back of the suffering of your loved ones and mine. And what's at the heart of all this? Because we all know what the problem is, especially in our space. We know what the problem is. What the hell has changed? What's changed? I'll tell you what's changed. It's got me very concerned. My musical lighter. My lighter. I ran out of butane to fill it up, and I bought some different butane, and I filled it up. And look what happened. That's very disappointing. I don't like that music. I like my old music better. Excuse me while I light my cigar and put up with this horrible music, would you? Thank you. I did that on purpose to inject a little humor and levity into something that's really got me and has had me incensed, is that how can this current situation continue to perpetuate itself when more and more people are finding out what the problem is? And I have the answer. I have an answer to that. And the answer to solving everything. The answer to solving every problem. Troubleshooting every issue. And that's what I do. I'm a troubleshooter. I fix things. At least things that I can control. I've always done that all my life, especially in the technology business. But I'm trying to fix some people's health by finding something they call the root cause. You cannot fix a problem until you discover and correct the root cause. And the root cause may be something that sounds so far removed from the actual problem itself that you have trouble connecting the two. They have something called the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect. It means that some small inconsequential thing that happens somewhere can eventually, through a series of different events, affect the outcome of some big major thing somewhere else. For example, they use the butterfly effect. The additional wind added by a butterfly flapping its wings was just enough to push a developing weather pattern over the top to have a huge hurricane form which wipes out thousands of people. Now, I know that's an extreme example, but they call that the butterfly effect. And it happens everywhere. In food and nutrition, you can look back in history for the butterfly effect. You can look back to the Seventh-day Adventists' formation and Ellen G. White, and her having been in a coma and talked to God. God said meat causes men to have impure thoughts. She started, along with others, this religion that preached vegetarianism. That grew into the breakfast cereal business. That begat Ansel Keys and his phony stuff trying to get people to buy breakfast cereals instead of eating meat, claiming it was cholesterol, because it all boiled down to what eventually became more profitable for industry. And our industries today have lost the knowledge or even the recognition of what it was that initially moved people to buy their products. And it's become all about the money. The corruption isn't the root cause, no more than Calley says that obesity is not an Ozempic deficiency, that heart disease is not a statin deficiency. The cause lies elsewhere. In order to discover these things, you got to have an open mind. You got to know how to think. And you've heard this from me before, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again, ad nauseum. Ad nauseum. There's only one way to fix all of these problems. There's ways to attack individual problems. Put someone in power in Washington that knows the problem and can clean house, there are things that can be done. Unfortunately, there's too much money in not doing them for too many people who fight it, gaslight everybody else. They own the news now. They own the media. They own social media. They're funding everything. They own the universities where the so-called studies are done. Everybody is living off the money provided by the most profitable industries on the planet. Big food, big pharma, and the defense industries. It behooves them to make sure we're fighting wars and make sure our population is sick and everybody gets more and more and more of the government money, which is the real source of where this money comes from. The insurance, the federal grants, Medicare programs, Medicaid programs. And now we're living in a society where if you've abused yourself all your life, eaten all the crap food, gotten yourself sick and fat, me, as a taxpayer, have to feed the drug companies more money to fix your fat ass. Sorry about that. Obviously, I've had it. I'm fed up. And the root cause of all this, and the one thing that they play on to make sure that this continues to be perpetuated, is carbohydrate addiction. How the hell, Mitch, can you actually say that the root cause of the corruption and the medical community's standard of care, how can you say that it's carbohydrate addiction? How can you blame carbohydrate addiction on all of the problems of the human race right now? How can you do that? I can. And I will, very simply. If it wasn't for carbohydrate addicts, if it wasn't for the way addiction works, if it wasn't for the reason that you are so hooked on these foods that you cannot fight the cravings, the reason you cannot fight the cravings is because you're so wrapped up in these foods. Your pleasure centers, what gives joy to your life itself, revolves around the fact that if you can't get these foods, if you can't eat those sweet things, those processed foods, the pizza, the ice cream, if you can't eat that stuff, you are firmly convinced your life is going to be miserable. Any excuse that your subconscious can jam into your prefrontal cortex to rationalize the fact that it's okay to eat this stuff, you're a slave to that. You are a slave to the food. You will buy into any reason that you can concoct in your mind to not get healthy, to continue to buy these foods, to take these drugs rather than fix the root cause of the problem, which is the fact that you're addicted to these foods and these foods are killing you. That's a simple truth. You're addicted to these foods and these foods are killing you. It's so simple. Doctor, I'm addicted to these foods and these foods are killing me. Write me a prescription. Well, here's 7 different drugs you can take to treat the symptoms, but you're not going to cure anything or change anything. You're just going to die maybe a little less slowly than you would have died. Or if it was a realistic doctor, and there are them out there, not many of them, because it's not as profitable for them, this doctor would write you a prescription that would say, stop eating sugar. And here are ways that you can fight the cravings and cure your addiction. That's what I'm doing here. That's what all of us in this space are doing here. We're telling you that the root cause of everything that's ruining our country and our species. The root cause at the very heart of all of the mental illness, the suicide rates, the diabetes, the chronic illnesses, the heart disease, the dementia, the Alzheimer's, the metabolic dysfunction, is all caused because we are carb addicts, and we will find any excuse, any path other than the one that involves us giving up our drug of choice, which is sugar in all its forms. That's the truth. That's it. Simply distilled down to its essence, simplicity itself. You want to not be a diabetic? Don't eat sugar. You want to not get heart disease? Don't eat sugar. You want to have chances of not getting cancer or dementia? Don't eat sugar. I know how hard that was, because for 75 years of my life, the thought of giving that stuff up was so painful. I would do it for periods of time to lose weight, but then immediately jump right back on because the addiction never went away. I discovered carnivore. I didn't invent carnivore. Carnivore was not an invention. It was a discovery. It has been there all along. Carnivore has been there for millions of years in the human evolutionary species. Nobody invented the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is the appropriate human diet. It is what we have always eating, and we have to get back to it. And we can eat small amounts of sugar. But the problem is we are so addicted now that even those small amounts of sugar bring the addiction flaming back. So abstinence, we have worked ourselves into this corner, just like alcoholics, where abstinence, unfortunately, is the key to sustainability. Fortunately, when you do it properly, you do lose the craving. So the abstinence becomes not even a second thought. I rant. You know I rant. And there's a reason why. The truth, the answers out there are so evident and so obvious. But the word doesn't spread. There's too much against it. And I go back to feeling sad that about the best that we can do in this system, with all this money and all these people in the chain of the flow of those dollars, including the entire medical community and all their big buildings, all the universities and their research departments, all designed to figure better and better ways to exploit the human carbohydrate addiction that's at the root and allows all of this. I'm not the guy to figure out how to solve this problem. I can't. I just can't. The best I can do is try to focus people on what the real problem is and where we need to attack this. I think that one of the only things that anybody could do or push for that might be somewhat even small, in a small way, effective at beginning to solve this problem, and something that I think needs to happen before anything else can progress and change, is somewhere, somehow, carbohydrate addiction needs to be elevated to the level of the threat and the level of importance that it really is as the number one cause of all of the healthcare crisis that we have in this country. Everything can be blamed on carbohydrate addiction and how it's being used and perpetuated and made worse by all of the industries that profit so much on it. That would be a good start. Still would only be a start and it would require the eventual, I hate to say banning because that's not how I live, the education of people. Problem again, you can't educate an addict to not want sugar. All the education in the world. People become carnivores because they usually get the shit scared out of them with some medical thing. When some doctor tells them that, they're going to have a heart attack in 2 days, or their diabetes is so bad, or their kidneys are failing, or whatever, or, something usually has to motivate us, which is why very few really young people do this, because they're still immortal. But never forget, and never, at least for me, I never take my eyes off the ball. And the ball is carbohydrate addiction. That's why I focus on it. I harp on it. It's every other word out of my mouth is carb addiction, till I'm blue in the face. Subscribers unsubscribe because they're tired of hearing it doesn't fit in with their carb addiction. So their addiction tells them, stop listening to this guy because he wants you to stop doing that thing that brings you the most pleasure in life. Hell with the fact that it's causing all your problems. That's not important. And so it goes. We'll go watch the guy that tells us how to make a low-carb version of cheesecake, donuts, mashed potatoes, and pizza. Yeah, that's what we'll do, because we can still feed our addiction and convince ourselves that we're doing something good for us. Sorry, no. It's an uphill battle, man. Am I the only guy on the planet that's saying this, that's blaming everything on human weakness and addiction and how it's being exploited? And it is the truth. There can be no other reason why we go along with this shit. Anyway, that's enough for today. I got a real problem, something I really need to fix. I need to figure out how to get my lighter back to play the music that it used to play. I guess I'm going to have to try to find a can of butane like the one. I had no idea that the fuel you put in your lighter can really affect the way it... Wait a minute. The fuel you put in your lighter affects the whole way that it works? Get what I'm saying? Maybe it's true. Maybe the fuel that you put in your body affects everything more than anything else. Figure out what the right fuel is, and your musical lighter might play the right tune. Take the rest of the day off and eat meat.